What's going on, everyone? It's Nick, and sorry for the delay on this one because I really had to think hard about the reserves for the All-Star game. But before we begin, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. We're here to talk about the All-Star selections, what I think of the starters, and also who I think the reserve should be, which is why I have that jersey behind me for this video. I'll also talk about some of the games, so let's talk about it. When All-Star voting started, I did make a video of myself voting for the All-Stars, who I think should start, and it included a rant after the Lakers choked against the Pistons. And here we are again, back-to-back ugly losses for the Lakers. But just gotta make sure Anthony Davis is healthy for the right time. I'd rather take the hit in the standings than make him suffer an even worse injury. And also Dennis Schroeder being absent, yeah, that's definitely hurting the Lakers too. Although the Heat did play great defense, but still, LeBron needs to be held accountable. No, I'm not fanboying anybody here, okay? Just making that clear. LeBron only scored 4 second half points against the Heat. That is unacceptable. Against the Nets, yes, the not enough help excuse definitely was okay, but in this game against the Heat, no. The not enough help excuse just does not fly. The only guy that could have held his head high after the game against the Heat was Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma was playing exceptionally well on both ends of the floor. I'm really loving what Kyle Kuzma's doing. No, I'm not going to include him in my All-Star selections, by the way, because again, I'm not a fanboy. Yes, I love the Lakers, but I'm doing this unbiased. But I really do love what Kyle Kuzma has done on both ends of the floor this year. And also, well, Montrezl Harrell, he scored 18 points in this game, although he got cooked on defense. And hey, we knew that he wasn't going to be a rim protector. Anyone who thought he would is just crazy or doesn't watch games. Montrezl just isn't big enough to be a rim protector, but he at least did his job on offense. Now some of the games that happened last night. Now, in regards to the officiating, I didn't watch the Celtics-Pelicans game because I was asleep, but I heard the officiating was atrocious. When I saw this, though,
Neesmith thinks a good defense, got a hand up, but through the foul, and J.J. Redick has just been tossed.
I think my head exploded. I don't care if I sound too reactionary right now. That ref needs to get fired on the spot. That is absolutely egregious. How do you eject somebody for that? Oh my god. Okay, now, I only watched the Knicks Magic game in its entirety. Derrick Rose, he really needs to find his shot. That's 2 games in a row now where he shot horrifically. The Knicks really missed Mitchell Robinson. Now, Nerlens Noel isn't bad, but he's been struggling with foul trouble. Definitely love to have Mitchell Robinson back. He needs to get well, rest up, alright, but hopefully he gets back as soon as possible. Julius Randle shined again. RJ Barrett played well too. Alec Burks made some nice hustle plays. The Knicks almost choked in the fourth quarter though, only 10 points in that entire quarter, but they still managed to pull away with the win. Although the Timberwolves actually fired Ryan Saunders after the game, and he's the first coach that got fired this year, and the Timberwolves actually managed to get a Raptors assistant coach mid-season to fill in the head coaching vacancy. And has any assistant coach from another team filled in a head coaching vacancy in the middle of the season? I can't remember any time in NBA history that that's ever happened. If it ever has happened though, you can let me know in the comments, but as far as I'm concerned, this is the first time I've ever heard of any such thing. Now, I did see the end of the Nets-Clippers game. Kyrie, while he's been a great closer this year, not last night as he was chucking and bricking in the fourth quarter, but the Clippers really made DeAndre Jordan look way better than he actually is. Like, about as good, if not better than the Lob City days. Like, you definitely cannot let that happen. And yeah, the Kawhi Leonard offensive foul. Yeah, that was a joke. A blatant flop by James Harden. Come on, really? You're really gonna call that in that situation? And the Clippers couldn't challenge the play because they used their challenge earlier in the game. Paul George on minutes restriction. He played how many minutes? 32 minutes, okay. Not a serious minutes restriction, but it is a minutes restriction, and scored 34 points. Although The last 30 seconds of the game, again, while I've actually praised Tyronn Lue more than I expected to, I thought that he'd be no upgrade over Doc Rivers whatsoever. I happen to be completely wrong about that. The last 30 seconds of the game, you're not putting in Paul George because of minutes restriction. 30 seconds is not going to hurt the guy. That's where I'm going to be critical of Tyronn Lue. Again, I don't think he's horrible like I used to think when he was in Cleveland, or when I made that video saying that he's a terrible hire. But this is where I think he made a mistake. He should have had Paul George in the game for those last 30 seconds, regardless of the minutes restriction. He was having a great game, 34 points, and just 30 seconds, come on. That really can't hurt him. And also, about the Nets, yeah, they're on a 6-game winning streak now, and they're doing it without Kevin Durant. And although Kyrie Irving had a rough fourth quarter, James Harden, at least from looking at the box score, because again, I didn't watch the game in its entirety, James Harden had to be the player of the game with 37 points on extremely high efficiency. But with the Nets going small now and having DeAndre Jordan come off the bench, I'm not sure what they're going to do in terms of making changes, but as of now, I gotta say, if the Nets and Sixers play each other in the playoffs, Joel Embiid better feast on them. There's no excuse. Like, if I'm Doc Rivers, my playbook would be pretty simple. Get the ball to Joel Embiid and have him feast. Well, it sure does sound like Doc Rivers to have a really simple playbook, but in a matchup against the Nets, something as simple as just get the ball to Joel Embiid, they should be able to get by with that. But now, what you actually came here for, why you clicked this video, the All-Star Game selections. So first I'm going to talk about the starters and what I think of them. For the West, we got LeBron, Kawhi, Nikola Jokic, Luka, and Steph. And I gotta say, Dame got robbed. He should be starting over Luka. Luka may have more assists and more rebounds than Dame, but Dame is scoring more on higher efficiency. Don't just look at field goal percentage. Dame has a better effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentage. And he's leading his team to more wins, even without CJ McCollum and Yusuf Nurkic. While Luka, his Mavericks have been underwhelming this year. Other than that, though, I agree with the West starters. And yes, I did vote for Paul George over Jokic when the voting process just started. But after Paul George missed those games, yeah, I gotta give it to Jokic now. Now for the East. We got KD, Embiid, Giannis, Bradley Beal, and Kyrie. And I don't really have much beef with this. Now, Kevin Durant has missed some games, although he's been spectacular in those games that he has played in. He's fallen out of the MVP race right now, but I have no beef with him being a starter in the All-Star game. In fact, I voted for him every single time myself, so again, I have no beef with it. With the guards though, yes, it's debatable, but I'm cool with it. You can make the argument that Bradley Beal hasn't won enough games. I think that's fair, although I don't think it's Bradley Beal's fault, and the Wizards have won their last 4 games, so it looks like they might be starting to turn things around, but they're still not going to be better than a low-seeded playoff team. And Kyrie, well, he's scoring 28 points per game on what's by far the best efficiency of his career. Although you can make the case for James Harden because Kyrie's missed some games. Aside from all the off-court drama, let's be real, Kyrie's having a phenomenal season. He's having a career year. James Harden, though, why I could make the case for him is his playmaking. He's leading the league in assists this year, and he's really sacrificed scoring since he's come to the Nets, and he's played more games than Kyrie. And with Jaylen Brown, while the Celtics have been underwhelming too this year, they're not as underwhelming as the Wizards. Well, okay, the Celtics had higher expectations anyways, but that's where I would consider Jaylen Brown over Bradley Beal. And also, it's certainly not Jaylen Brown's fault that the Celtics are underachieving. They've had injuries, the virus affected them, Kemba Walker's been inconsistent, and not gonna lie, Brad Stevens' coaching has actually been pretty suspect this year. We raved about him throughout his time in Boston, but this year, I don't know if he really has been that good. And if we want to bring defense into this, yeah, I think we all know this by now. Jaylen Brown is a lot better on defense. Sure, his off-ball defense isn't the best, but Bradley Beal is just not a good defender, period. But he is leading the league in scoring. But overall, though, I don't really have much of a beef with it. Now let's get on to the reserves. So, I'm going to start with the West. Dame, of course, because he should be starting, like I just said. Then I have Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Paul George, Anthony Davis, but replace him with Zion Williamson because Anthony Davis is going to miss the All-Star game. And for the final spot, I'm going with Rudy Gobert. I really want to somehow get DeMar DeRozan on here because the Spurs are really exceeding everyone's expectations, including my own. But, you know, this is why I think that All-Star game rosters should be expanded. If you agree or disagree, you can let me know in the comments. But I really think that they should be expanded. Only 12 spots for each conference, unless there's an injury, and you can have up to 15 on an active roster. I think it's time that the All-Star game rosters get expanded to 15 players per conference. And the other 2 players that I would include for the reserves, if the rosters were expanded, I would say Ja Morant and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. CJ McCollum's another guy that I would consider, but yeah, his injury robbed him because he was out playing Damian Lillard at one point earlier in the season, like at the very beginning of the season. But then an injury robbed him of his first ever All-Star appearance. I feel so sorry for him, but okay. Now let's move on to the East. Now, of course, James Harden and Jaylen Brown, because those are the 2 guys that you can make a case for getting snubbed for starting in the All-Star game. The other reserves, Zach LaVine, he is having a career year. I believe 29 points per game on very high efficiency, and the sole reason why the Bulls aren't in last place right now. Then I have Ben Simmons, a top 2 defensive player of the year candidate, and although he got off to a rocky start offensively, he started to pick it up lately. He had a 40-point game not that long ago, and I didn't get to watch the game against the Raptors, although the Raptors are starting to get things together now. Let me just check that real quick. I'm just going by the box score because I didn't watch any of it, but 28 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. He got his 28 points on 9 of 11 from the field. So, and Joel Embiid was the one who struggled, but hey, it's only one game, and Joel Embiid is still very much in the MVP conversation. Again, I'm going to make a video on this later on, so stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed for that. Okay, and then the other East reserves I have, Jason Tatum, even though he's missed some games because of the you-know-what virus. I'm not going to say it on YouTube because I know YouTube hates that word. And then I also have Julius Randle. I had second thoughts on this one, but then as I really started to think about this one more, yeah, Julius Randle. And then I have Domantas Sabonis for the final spot. Now, the reason why I had second thoughts on Julius Randle was because of Chris Middleton. Although the Bucks have been underwhelming, well, they got a much-needed win against the Kings, but still, because of how underwhelming the Bucks have been and how surprising the Knicks have been this year, and also the fact that Julius Randle is the clear-cut best player on one of the surprise teams in the East this year, probably the biggest surprise in the NBA, I gotta give it to Julius Randle. But that's not anything against Chris Middleton, though. He's scoring 20 points per game on very high efficiency this year. But those 3 extra spots, if the rosters were to be expanded, like I said before, they should be expanded to 3 more spots. In my opinion, you can disagree with me if you want. I don't care, but just my opinion. So the other 3 spots, yeah, Chris Middleton and also Trae Young, and between Bam Adebayo and Nikola Vucevic, it's a close call, but I'm going to give it to Bam. Jimmy Butler, well, he's been great in the games he's played in, but he's missed too many games to make the All-Star game this year. And Gordon Hayward and Jeremy Grant, they're 2 more snubs. Jeremy Grant's in the running for most improved player, but unfortunately the Pistons aren't doing well enough. And Gordon Hayward, you can definitely make an argument for, and he was definitely not the bad signing that so many of us thought he would be for the Hornets. Not that, like, I personally thought that he's just a bad player now. No, he scored 17 points per game as the 4th option on the Celtics last year. But I wasn't so sure that he'd really be that close to what he was pre-injury in Utah, but he is, like, right there now. I'm not sure what his exact stats are, but I remember he had a 40-point game earlier this season, and right now, 21.9 points per game this year on 48.5% from the field, 598 true shooting percentage. He's close but no cigar. So that's who I think will be the reserves for the All-Star game. The reserves are going to be announced on February 23rd, February 24th for me in Japan. So that would be tomorrow for everyone seeing this in America, but in 2 days for me in Japan. So that's the end of this video. Please remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.